Welcome to NFL Daily, where we're wearing our best award show outfits and ready for a momentous day in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio. Here I am with my friends, Jourdan Rodrigue of The Athletic and Bridget Condon of the last NFL Daily episode. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
We just slept here. Let me just roll up my sleeping bag because that's what it feels like, right?
Yeah. Welcome. It's a fun day. Yeah, we're going to hand out some Midseason Awards, some MVPs, some Defensive Player of the Year, maybe get creative, hand out some of our own ones. But I think we got to address...
Yeah, I'm in the middle, I think.
The elephant in the room where Bridget's just like not happy with me, not giving me good vibes today. Unlike last night. We left
as... When a friend says they'll do a favor for you.
Yeah.
I left last night feeling incredibly happy.
Yeah.
Went to bed like clouds. I was sleeping on clouds. Woke up this morning, Gregg's like, hey, can't wait to have you on the show. I'm like, Gregg, oh my God, it's been so great. I can't wait to be back on the show. Like, you were so great. Then out of nowhere, he's like, by the way, I can't do that thing I said I could do for you.
Yeah. It's a good life lesson. Sometimes, and I've learned this even just hosting this show. Like, the people that annoy you at, like, in terms of whether they're going to come on the show or not, if that would ever happen, you would never be even the slightest annoyed by anyone saying no to any ask ever, because you're asking for a favor, and sometimes it's at weird times. But the people that say yes, and then at the last minute are like, actually, I can't, and it's almost like they were afraid to say no to begin with. It's a good life lesson. Don't be that person. I was that person, and I apologize. I was going to cover your shift, and then I found out, you know what? My eyes were a little too big. I had made promises. I have my parents who are in their 80s that I have to get from the airport that night. I can't have my wife taking care of them. They can't find their way back. It was a mistake. I should have just said no to begin with, and then you wouldn't be so mad at me. Sorry about that.
Okay, we'll just move on.
Okay, but if you just want my octogenarian parents like wandering around Los Angeles.
Don't tell it to me. Tell it to Jim and John Harbaugh.
Okay. Yeah, I know. You want to cover that game. It's because you want to work so hard, getting out of one shift to work another. Hello, Jourdan. How are you?
Hello. I'm enjoying this.
And you guys know each other. You used to work together.
We go way back.
Yeah,
okay.
And I'm strategically placed in the middle of this energy right now, which is great for me personally. It's nice to see you. It's nice to be sitting
This is so fun. I remember, Jourdan, when we were covering Panthers games, like as a woman, you have to go into the bathroom at the end of the game to like re-up your makeup because you're about to go on TV. And so I'd always be in there like fourth quarter listening to the radio, re-upping my makeup, and Jourdan would come in so peacefully, and we got to chat.
Never peacefully, but always nice to see Bridget.
And now look, here you are in Los Angeles, co-workers of some sort. If I knew you guys were friends, I would have had you on the show much earlier.
I feel like
that's hilarious. That's so funny. Okay.
Don't you feel like he's attempted a gaslighting situation like 6 times already?
I feel like you want me to come over there.
It is one of the things I love about Bridget is that she's a true soul like me, and so when she's not happy with you, she lets you know. I think that's a healthier way to be. I'm
feeling Samuel, and you're feeling Jake Moody right now.
That sounds.
Oh no, am I Tabor Pepper?
Yeah.
Oh no.
That sounds about right. All right, let's do some awards. We're gonna go through them. Let's start with the awards because we got a little bit of news. We'll talk about Shane Waldron getting fired a little later, but it's just so unsurprising that I don't want to lead the show with it. We're also talking a little Commanders-Eagles, one of the best Thursday night games of the entire season. One of the games I'm most excited for all season. So we'll preview that later. But let's start with the big one. Let's start with MVP, and we're not going to be too formal here. I'm just going to we're going to go around and say who we would have on the MVP, who you're considering, and we'll talk out where we are. It's not projecting forward. It's not a prediction. It's through 10 weeks. Who is your MVP? Let's start with Bridget.
Okay, I'm going to go Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people probably want me to say Josh Allen. Look, he is still close, making a run for it. But right now, if I were to have to submit my ballot, it would be Lamar Jackson. He could become the 6th player to win back-to-back. Of course, Aaron Rodgers did that 2020, 2021. Top 5 in passing yards and touchdowns, coming off a 4-touchdown, almost 300-yard performance against the Bengals. And not only did he have a stellar performance, he led a big comeback win. That's what you need. When I'm looking at, like, what are the categories of being an MVP, Lamar Jackson is that.
Yeah, I think he embodies the award. He would be my pick as well. I do think you bring up a good point that this is going to be interesting, and people on shows such as this and all over are going to have a lot of fun debating this Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, maybe Joe Burrow if he keeps playing really well, although he's on a bad team right now, I think. So that's not going to maybe have strength down the stretch. But the Josh Allen thing, because Josh Allen is playing so efficiently, because the Bills are starting to roll, that's going to be a debate point. But my pick is Lamar Jackson. Part of what Bridget said, is my argument as well. He, to me, embodies this award. You can't imagine this offense or this team looking the way that it does or functioning without him playing the way that he is. And he's won in so many different ways. At the beginning of the season, the designed runs, the carrying everything on his back as the passing game, and particularly the skill players were still coming up to speed and they were getting a bit of a rapport together as well. Now the passing game is starting to click as well, specifically with the receivers. He's finding them. He's making things happen in miraculous ways, it seems, every week. And I cannot imagine at this point of the year that award going to someone else.
I agree. He's my pick. One of the reasons I like the MVP award is they require the voters to put down 3 MVP candidates. So I would have the award right now be number 1, Lamar. I think I would go Jaden Daniels 2, but I wouldn't be held to that. Josh Allen 3, and it would be a little bit of a drop off after that. And I think there's a lot of wild cards out there that can get into the mix. It's funny because it kind of reminds me of when Jokic won the NBA MVP and his team, like they hadn't done as much success, but everyone just understood by the numbers he was the best guy. And then he kept getting better and better and better, and the numbers kept getting better. So it was like, well, we kind of have to keep giving it to him because he keeps getting better. Lamar Jackson's so much better this year than he was last year when he was the MVP. And some years there aren't great candidates for MVP. I think last year was kind of one of those years where in a lot of years, the guy who would have come in second or third, like sometimes a quarterback having a great season, but not the number 1 seed, like that guy had better season than Lamar did last year. But I think he was the best choice last year. He was my choice last year. That's why Jaden Daniels would be number 2 for me, because I just think in terms of changing an entire team, that if you took him away from Washington, the moments that he's had in big spots, him and Josh Allen are so close. But I think Josh Allen's last game against Indianapolis was a little bit in my head with a couple interceptions. So that was like the tiebreaker. But those two, to me, would be a very close second and third right now.
I think this weekend is big for Josh Allen. If he beats Patrick Mahomes and ends this undefeated streak of the Chiefs, because remember, he's doing it without Stephon Diggs. He doesn't have his best weapon like he had last year. So I think as Jaden Daniels, is taking a lot of nothing and making something of it, so is Josh Allen. And it'll be interesting to see how the second half plays out. But he's closer than a lot of people think.
I think Jaden Daniels is having a special season. And so don't get me wrong when I say that. But kind of to my argument about Lamar being the runaway MVP vote, in my opinion, with Josh Allen and the Bills, you could really picture a floor that was so much lower than it actually was, specifically because in the beginning of the year, he was their quarterback and he was playing extremely efficiently, wasn't throwing interceptions. Yeah, he had a couple recently.
Right. He's still been very clean and played amazing.
But
I'm just
you
that was
to say you hate against Josh Allen.
I picked them to win the Super Bowl going into the season, or to make the Super Bowl.
This is the energy I'm here for today.
Yeah, you're like no one was. He's like no one was expecting this. I was expecting it.
It's because I suggested Josh Allen, and you're like, horrible suggestion.
He literally was my MVP pick on NFL.com before the season, and so I think he has a great chance. One thing I do want to recognize here is people talk in absolutes about the MVP race. Almost nothing that's happened so far matters that much. I think that's unfortunate, but I've been through this enough that the next 8 weeks are much more important than the first 10 weeks. So all these guys are in position, but if for whatever reason the Ravens lose a bunch of games and Lamar has bad moments in a couple of those, like there are many people who could pop up. I'm just going to throw out some names. Patrick Mahomes could certainly pop up if he plays excellent the rest of the way. When I look at ESPN QBR, just looking for rushing value, because I was curious, Lamar to me is the most valuable passer in the league this year, but I actually think he's been like less than he normally is running. Still top 5 or 6, but there's just such great runners this year, and I'm not surprised. Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen are the top 4 in terms of rushing value this year, which I think speaks to Mahomes still has a chance at this thing. They're freaking undefeated. It's not like he's playing that poorly.
Rushing value should have a little context with it, though. I mean, Jalen Hurts, obviously, to me, this is similar context that he deserves, as well as Lamar Jackson with the caliber of the running back that you also have. Like, you're not going to be designing all of these super must-be productive, gotta-have-it runs for your quarterback and almost forcing him to produce when you have a more balanced attack, when you also can give some of that workload to a high caliber running back, who we're going to talk about later in the show.
Yes. I'm just going to throw out a few other wild cards.
I think Jalen Hurts would be my number 3 right now.
That's interesting. I think he has. You know what? In Vegas, he is the 4th or 5th favorite right now, so that's not that crazy. Some people that would have a chance that maybe you wouldn't think have a chance. Kyler Murray has a chance if he has a really strong down the stretch. Like, he would be in my top 5 or 6 right now. If the Chargers went crazy down the stretch, Justin Herbert would have a chance. Derrick Henry probably doesn't have a chance because he's with Lamar, but just someone to think about. If he got like 2,000 yards or something, it's not that crazy. Hurts, Burrow would be other ones that, like, if they just went crazy the next 8 or 9 weeks, they could be in the mix. We're going to throw out some of our own awards here as well. Let's start with Bridget. So before we go to Defensive Player of the Year, let's go for a Bridget award.
All right, how about Best Meme of the Year?
Okay.
Any guesses before I throw it out there?
Something with Will Levis.
That's actually good. Runner up, but no. Somebody has been more memed than Will Levis.
Shoot, I should know this.
What are the meme stats?
Just give it to us.
All right, Mike Tomlin.
Okay.
I mean, he's literally looking like he's on the Truman Show. He, honestly, I love it, and I wish
when he
that,
caught the camera on the Sunday Night Football. Yes.
I think it was Monday night. He turns side eye, looks at it, and then gives the thumbs up. If you have a chance to go on Twitter and watch this entire video, because it's hilarious. And this was the second game after, this was Russ's second start.
Yes.
It was right after a big throw to Van Jefferson, 36 yards. They went on, score a touchdown that drive, put the game out of reach for the Giants. I just think it's hilarious. Like, he knows where the cameras are. It's like when Mike McDaniel last year, raced against the camera off at halftime. I love when the coaches remind us that they're it's like breaking the fourth wall, right? Or the third wall.
Yeah, that they're running the ecosystem.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, I know you're looking at me. And hey, that was a good pass.
I love me a Mike Tomlin in a season where he's feeling himself a little bit.
Because he's making the right decisions. The decisions he has made, including that risky 4th down, I think it was last week. Every decision he's made autonomously himself this year has been correct. And I love that meme in that moment, because that was almost him acknowledging, hey, you guys will see. I'm right.
Oh yeah, when he was in the back of the room and someone, Brandon Marshall asked him about
starting Russ, and he's like, that's why I get paid a lot.
It's like Kurt Cignetti, the Indiana coach, who says, I win games, Google me.
Oh my God.
That's big energy right there.
I love it. Put me in my place, please.
I never save that one for later. I never want to be on Mike Tomlin's bad side.
No.
They asked him about Deontay Johnson, who they're going to face this week, the former Steeler, and he just said simply, he's not on a lot of their video. They've got more significant pieces with larger roles that occupy my attention.
Ooh.
That is amazing. All right, let's go to Offensive Player of the Year. Let's be quick on this one. To me, let's just call this Best Non-Quarterback Award, which makes it a little more interesting. Is it Derrick Henry?
It's Derrick Henry. It is definitively runaway, pun intended, Derrick Henry.
Okay, I have one other option I just want to put out there. Well, first of all, Saquon Barkley is absolutely a good option too.
Who are you going to say, Jamal?
No, I want to be the change, that you want to see in the world. Let's make a Penei Sewell for Offensive Player of the Year candidacy, because it's not ever going to happen for MVP, okay. And I think some people maybe would try to push the MVP. If an offensive lineman is that incredible that he deserves something, this would be the award to do it. So I'm just putting Penei Sewell out there, maybe.
Give me your elevator pitch.
That they are the defining team of this season right now, to me, defining offense. They are defined by their offensive line, that even dummies like me who don't specialize in offensive line play can watch this man and the way that he moves and say, that is one of the best athletes I've literally ever seen. And people that are smarter than me and really break it down, like a Brian Baldinger and everything, say, this is the best offensive lineman in the league. What they build in terms of their pass game, but especially the run game, is around this guy. He is that important. That's why he gets all that money too. So Penei Sewell.
He's so good that so much of their initial contact blocking in the run game or on the short passes like screens depends on him and goes through him. And then also depends on him blocking in the second level and getting to the second level. And then the third, because he's that athletic, he can move layer to layer to layer that fast. This is
admittedly like a hipster pick.
Yes, society
he's
I
not
don't
on
think
the
is
board.
ready for it yet. I would like society to be there.
I know, but we are society. So I don't want to be the reporter that's like, hey, coach, some people are saying that your team sucks. And you know what I mean? It's like, if we're saying like society's not ready, like we're tastemakers. I believe that.
So put it out there.
Yeah, so we just did. Like
Keep going.
I believe, and I'm probably wrong, that on the Around the NFL podcast last year, us stumping so hard for Kobe Turner for like 6-7 weeks beforehand, I think helped him get a little bit of pop by the end and helped him.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the features, the beat writer.
No. All right, let's stick with the real awards. Let's go Defensive Player of the Year. Why don't you start, Jourdan?
Yeah, I'm going to go TJ Watt.
Okay.
He's the favorite right now.
He is.
Obviously. And you know, he can take over games. We know this. We've seen this year over year over year. From him, I don't think there's a hugely significant at this time, based on the caliber of play so far, argument to make. But I can't quit Pat Surtain. I know he was hurt for a week, and they've had some issues at times. Struggled a couple weeks ago as a defense, but just playing at such an elite level. My pick is TJ Watt, but I wanted to throw out Pat.
Oh yeah, we can just pretend you have a list where you can put out your top 3 or 4 if you want, in order. So your guy is Watt, but you're number 2. I like that a lot.
All right, look, I'm going to pick someone that is on not a great team.
Okay.
But I'm going to give you my explanation as to why. My pick is Trey Hendrickson.
Oh, I thought you were going to go Dexter Lawrence.
He leads the team with 11 sacks.
Yeah.
No one else on the Bengals has more than 2 sacks. So when you think about that, teams really only have to focus on him. And he is still getting out there and making plays. Leads Cincinnati with the 11 sacks. I mean, he leads the NFL in tackles for loss. He's tied, I believe. Second in quarterback pressures. He really is the only threat on their team, and he's still being this efficient. To me, that's a Defensive Player of the Year.
Love it.
Because you don't have help.
And I don't think this is that hot a take. I think on a play-to-play basis, he's been better than Watt this year. Watt gets a lot of attention.
But he shows up, he takes over and wins games when their offense is not winning. This Bengals defense, I mean, it hasn't. Trey Hendrickson has certainly been far from the issue, but when the Steelers, especially early on, are winning these games, oftentimes it is because TJ Watt makes an absolutely game-altering play, and you just know it's coming. That's what you used to see with the Aaron Donalds of the world. You know it's coming. Everybody in the stadium knows it's coming, and you can't do anything about it anyway, and it changes the entire arc of the game.
And he never comes off the field. That's been TJ Watt's whole career to me. It's why I think he's always in this mix. He did get one that because of the game-changing plays, and yet I think the inverse of what we talked about Lamar, I don't think this has been TJ Watt's best season ever. He's had such a high bar on a consistent, down in pressure basis that I'm going to go totally off the board. Dexter Lawrence was my number 2. I like him a lot. I'm going to go Brian Branch right now. I
love that pick.
I actually think, when I just think who do I think is playing defense the best of anyone right now, I think it's Brian Branch. It's a tough one because you don't get the stats, but just you get some stats, first of all. But when you watch him, he's someone, if you do watch the All-22 and stuff, what he does doesn't seem possible. That he is an elite cornerback, essentially, when he's playing in the slot, and an elite eraser as a safety. I think he's opened up so much for them. I don't think this will hold true the whole season. It's really hard for a defensive back to keep doing this. But I actually do think he has a little bit of a chance. I think he'll get some votes. If it was halfway through now, do they vote all 3? Do they vote 3 for defensive player there? They should. They should vote top 5 for everything. It's more interesting that way. That's how NBA does it. I think Branch would get a lot of top 5 votes.
I love that pick. You know that I'm a huge dork over safety play. Brian Branch is a guy who rules in the safety cluster. I think this is maybe a strange take, but the more viral moments he has, whether it's the big plays or certain hand gestures or whatever.
The double bird getting flipped out of the game.
I feel like that
helps.
Bit
of juice.
That gives him some. I actually think that helps because more people are seeing it and then saying, okay, what's this guy all about? And then they go and maybe they watch a little tape. Maybe they watch a little All-22 on NFL Plus Pro.
Probably
Pro
not.
Plus.
Probably
and then
not.
they see
because
you can't. Here's the thing: you can't see
Nice
this.
spot.
A lot of times, what drives me nuts about like evaluating safety play and cornerback plays, especially now. You can't see the DBs on the broadcast screen with certain angles. You have to go watch how he's moving around the field, how he navigates and negotiates space against an entire offense. It is so sick. I love that.
It is great, and I think the guys like Chris Collinsworth, who gave Branch some nice pop on Sunday Night Football, being in those spots where a Greg Olsen or a Tony Romo give Branch some pop in a big spot, that'll help. Some other names that just aren't totally out of the mix. Chris Jones could certainly be in the mix by the end of the year. Xavier McKinney has had all those
It
picks.
was on my list.
Fred Warner's been awesome. After that, it like Surtain, I don't think is a crazy option. It'd have to be guys that come on really, really strong by the
Kirby
end of the year.
Joseph?
Maybe a Will
add him to the
Anderson,
list?
a
Yeah,
Kirby
I like
Joseph.
that. I love that. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, I know he's a rookie, but we could.
Player of the year?
No, not player of the year. I was going D-Roy.
That's too far.
I was going
That's
D-Roy.
too far.
No, but
all right, give me your other awards.
Oh yeah, okay. I have one fun one. Old guy of the year.
Okay,
Ooh.
I like
Normally,
that.
this is reserved for like kickers, punters, long snappers. In this case, I'm giving it to Calais freaking Campbell.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he is still doing the dang thing. The dude is built like a sequoia tree. I watched him in person on Monday night just completely take over the game early on for the Rams. He has 3 sacks, but he's getting the quarterback 6 hits in 9 games. But importantly, he's batted 5 passes in 9 games and forced a fumble. And he is unstoppable in terms of trying to like block and pin his arms down. You just can't. And he is 38 years old?
38. I
And
just looked it up.
still doing the dang thing. He is my old guy of the year award.
I love the Old Guy of the Year award. I'm going to throw out a weird one, too. This one is just very informational. It's not much of an award.
You? Information what?
It's the dumbest things of the season to look back on, like what people were thinking at the time.
Oh, good.
I just have nominees. Maybe you guys can decide who wins. The decision makers behind the Will Levis Mayo commercials. So you hit on that. Like it all seemed like it made sense. It was a really good commercial, and
It's a
yet
great commercial.
it was a little risky, and that came back to haunt them. Like the time when we were all excited about Matt Eberflus's glow up, which was amazing, but now I kind of
Nice
look
and
back
air
as like it's almost it's dark to think how sad that was. And then do you remember that week where everyone was debating about like, well, you could play Drake May at some point, but not against the Texans
Yep.
defense. Like,
Yep.
how could
I
we?
think I said that.
Oh no! Like, my word, is this man going to be able to survive a football game against other football players? And like, oh yeah, here he is, out there balling 5 weeks later.
I'd like people who watch the YouTube to go and just specifically zero in on Gregg's hand gestures through that entire.
Please don't, actually.
Were you in theater?
Theater kid.
No, but I was named Best Director of the Minnetonka Regional High School one-act play competition my senior year of high school, or junior year.
Wow. What was
And-
the play?
It was called The Scheme of the Shiftless Drifter. I don't think anyone would know it, but we just went through a big pack of plays, and it was really funny, and we wanted to do a funny one. It was me and a co-director. A lot of drama. We both kind of fell for the lead actress. It was very on brand.
Whoa.
Was this before or after you started the band?
I was in the band with the same guy who I did the co-director
Yeah.
thing with.
And you guys fought over the girl.
I wouldn't say fought, but quietly we
There was
both
tension.
fell for
was
her.
tension.
And
Who won?
who do you think?
He did.
No, damn.
You totally set her up.
I did set you
Wow.
up.
Now you're in Hollywood.
I was a confident young man in high school that, I'm not going to say I peaked there, but the world, and it never really got there until after. I never understood that being short was what got in your way. So in high school, if you got a little confidence, like that goes far enough.
Okay.
It goes far enough.
God.
A lot of people are the
I
same
got to bring
height
out the yearbook.
at that
Sore
age.
subject. We are going to take a quick break. This is the perfect time for it because I need to recover from that blow to my ego. Yes, back on the Midseason Awards show, and the total confidence with which Bridget assumed the other director had won the battle over the girl will haunt me and stick with me for a long time, as will
You won your wife. That's all that matters.
our producer Hytham in the back thinking I made up that whole story. I'm not going to be able to make up stuff that good. That was all reality. And,
Were you like the cool kid? in
No.
high school?
No, I wasn't cool. But I had lots.
He was like the cool guy who was like ironically into theater and had a band and.
No, I wasn't ironically
You were
into
that
theater.
kid that like
I couldn't
once
act.
you got to talk to, it was like that guy's actually kind of funny.
Yes,
We
maybe
should
more
invite
of that.
him to the
like
party.
in a bunch of like a person who's among a bunch of different groups. Maybe like the kid from Rushmore, but not that annoying. If you've ever seen Rushmore,
Okay.
I like Model Congress, the plays, little sports, a little bit of everything.
You're an all-around guy.
I love having Bridget here. Let's talk Coach of the
You
Year.
know who else is an all-around guy?
Whoever's gonna take your shift.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I don't know who that's gonna be.
No, I was going to say the coach of the year, but you brought up the shift again, and now I'm pissed.
Okay, go with the Coach of the Year.
All right, I'm going with Dan Quinn. I
Okay.
know a lot of you are
No, that's
probably going to go with somebody else, but I'm going with Dan Quinn. Look, he turned a 4-13 team to a team that is hearing Super Bowl bells right now. Jaden Daniels, the talk of the town. We just talked he might be even in the MVP conversation, okay? We're not even just talking about Rookie of the Year. And it's thanks to Dan Quinn. He really did not have a lot to work with. They were the last in the NFL in scoring, total and passing defense in 2023. Now, get this. They are scoring the most points per game since the 1991 season, which happens to be the last time they were in the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl.
Love it.
So I don't know. Give it to Dan Quinn, man.
I think if the vote happened right now, he would win, and it might not be that close.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love the Dan Quinn pick. I don't know. Twice now you've said people would disagree with you. I don't think anyone should be disagreeing with
I thought you
on,
all were going to say Dan
on that
Campbell.
one. So I do have a point on that. But Dan Quinn, I think, if we were voting right now, absolutely would win, not just because of what they've done this year, but what you mentioned it, Bridget, it's not just on the field. It's an entire collective organizational shift. And he is the face of it. And that requires a lot of synchronicity in working with Adam Peters, which he has done very, very well. They make a really solid team so far. He also filled out his coaching staff in a thoughtful, smart, and effective way. And he's letting those coaches build their own little miniature ecosystems within his larger umbrella. He also is a guy that people want to play for. And, I saw it mentioned the other week, people would like to be traded there now.
Yeah.
And that's something that just
never happened before.
Has never happened. And you know that it's they're building something special. It is reminiscent of what Dan Campbell did with Brad Holmes a couple of years ago. And I will forever be annoyed that the award did not go to him at some point during the ascension and instead to, Stefanski or whatever. But
Last year would have been the good year.
Dan
for it.
Campbell should have already, and I am done with not giving the flowers at the time that they're owed and missing a window to award a Coach of the Year candidate. And then,
Well, you can do it now. He's the second favorite in Vegas, Dan Campbell. I think he's a great option because of what you said. I'm with you. This award annoys me the most when you look back to see who won it, because it's always the guy who pops up on a really surprising team, but goes 11-6 and loses in the second round of the playoffs, and then maybe they don't maintain it, instead of guys who have built programs. So I think based on that, I would be totally for people voting for Dan Campbell and say, this is a 3-year process to kind of get to this point, and he's so good in game that you just give him the little bit of an edge over Dan Quinn. But I'd be fine either way, because let's look at some of the guys who have won it lately. Stefanski has won it twice in the last 4 years. And I get it. Each time it made sense when it
working with
happened.
not a lot.
It was Baker Mayfield and that surprising
I
season.
didn't think it made more sense than Dan Campbell the second time.
I agree. I would have voted for Dan Campbell last year. Brian Dable won it with the Giants. I mean, they went 9-7 that year. That's surprising, 9-7. Vrabel, that was fine. There's Matt Nagy is in the mix there. Bruce Arians I'm okay with. Dick Jourdan is always the one I bring up. Dick Jourdan won Coach of the Year back in 2001 for this Bears team.
Right, what does this mean? You know?
I just like guys that pop up. So I'm going to throw out another name, and it was atop my list, although these three would have been the top three, that I really would vote for this year because I want to be the change, and that'd be Andy Reid.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because he's such a great freaking
you
coach.
could argue for every year for the last 4 or 5 years he should be.
But some years more than others.
Yeah.
I do think, especially, I think you can look at the way that they've figured out a way to win these close games, and that in a way that Belichick
Have they figured out a way, or have they had really good luck?
both.
Or is it a combination?
It's a little bit of both, and he has Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
But I really think if you look at the talent that they have offensively, and I know they have Patrick Mahomes and they have Kelsey and they have
And now
some
DeAndre
offensive line.
Hopkins.
I just think he's doing a lot with a little and can always reinventing
I'll
himself.
give it to you, but there are guys more deserving, in my opinion.
I think we should be talking about Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
as
he was
well.
fourth. I made a little list.
I think we should be talking about him not just because he's always annually just a really solid coach, but also because this year, maybe more so than other years, he's kind of put himself out there on the island a little bit more
Yeah,
and making these risky decisions
Yeah,
that we perceive on
good
the
call.
outside as a risk. And he's pushing in a way where in the past, the meme or the joke that we'd always make is like, oh, it's going to be another, even season. They're not going to have a losing record. No, this is going beyond that. He's saying, to me, what he's saying is, I'm actually going to basically put myself out there in this way that is risky, that doesn't indicate a person who is satisfied with status quo of the last couple of years. And the decisions that were head scratching on the outside have worked.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think so. I think we should be talking about him. However, I come back to it. I'm not going to miss an opportunity like the voters did. I think in the past, to give a head coach his flowers for being a catalytic factor in pulling a franchise out of the dark ages.
Yeah, I think that's good. And Jonathan Gannon, if they finish strong, could be get
Interesting.
some attention. Jim Harbaugh, if they win 12 or 13 games, I mean Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, how
get
did we
some
forget about
attention.
him?
But there's so many good options. It's always a category that's tough to pick. Let's hear Bridget's second award here. You want to throw out here?
Okay. How about best mic'd up moment of the
Oh, okay.
There probably were some better ones that were a little too inappropriate.
Okay.
But I'm going with, and I believe we have it. How about the reaction on the Eagles sideline when Saquon Barkley did?
Hold on. Okay, move.
Look at this.
Spin move.
Meets one man, spins past another, leaps over a third.
What?
That's Jalen Hurts.
Oh,
Special like you.
I ain't never seen no
The way that these grown professional athletes are reacting, right? Because some of the things that they see in practice day in and day out, if you or I or any normal person was watching, we'd be like, that's crazy. These guys see things like this every day in practice, and for them to still react the way they did, like that was awesome.
Shout out to Patrick Claiborne. I'm glad you brought this up, and that was a great choice. Great production you're bringing to the show,
Thank
Bridget.
you. Thank you.
What
You're
a-
trying to get back on my
An
good side.
MVP of this show, Bridget Condon, right here.
Thanks.
That you brought clips to the table. Sorry, dang, I just keep digging that hole.
We have to switch seats now. You're in the middle.
That night when we were talking about that play, Claiborne posited that he thinks Saquon was starting to make a spin move and then felt the defender behind him, and that's why he ended up jumping over the guy. And I didn't hear that anywhere else in any media talking about it. And Saquon Barkley went on a podcast last week and explained that was exactly what happened.
Wow.
He wanted to hit him with he hit him with one spin move, and he hit the button essentially to hit him with a second one. And then he said, "I've never done that in my life, but I just felt him coming up to clip me." And yeah, so that's how it all happened. It wasn't like a total plan, but that's what great artists do. They improvise. Great choice.
I covered Saquon Barkley's breakout season at Penn State, and so I watched him
Really?
hurdle his first defender.
Where haven't you been? I didn't know that. That's crazy.
So careful about how you ask that question. but I remember him saying almost the same thing. Obviously, he was facing forward at this time, but it was never a planned thing. His body and his ability and his instincts just took over in this like beautiful, magical way that put him on the map forever. And similar to this, several years later, quite literally a full circle has happened, and it's really cool to see.
More of that, please.
Yeah,
that's what I request.
I want more of that. More of that. Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's going to be Jaden Daniel, so I don't think we need to spend much time. But if you guys want to throw out any players just to give some love to, it's a really strong year. Like in most years, Brock Bowers would be a great candidate. Brian Thomas Jr. would be a great candidate. Bo Nix would be a good candidate.
Malik Neighbors.
Like Drake May, if he
Tyrone
stacks
Tracy.
it down the rest of the year. Like a really, really fun group, which makes sense. Like the first half of the first round were all offensive players, and like they've panned out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch the young guys start to come into their own and really make some waves. Like you said, there's no question in my mind that this is Jourdan Daniels, but the future is bright in this sport that we love.
Can I say something that's interesting?
No, I want something that's boring.
Okay, well, I could potentially save this for the preview that we're going to do at the end of the show.
Go for it.
Okay. This is going to be really interesting to see what happens with Jourdan Daniels and the Commanders in the second half of season. My one negative, which I want them to excel. My husband's a diehard Commanders fan. Life is just better when they're winning. Cliff Kingsbury has been known for second half collapses, dating back to his time as a college coach, also with the Cardinals, with Texas Tech.
Every year.
The Commanders had their arguably worst offensive performance against the Steelers on Sunday. We're week 10. We're in the second half. I want it to go well, but
No, I think it's fair.
what if it tanks? Then what are we talking about? Still Jourdan Daniels? Has he done enough through 10 weeks that he wins it regardless?
Yes, this award, yes.
Unless okay.
I guess you never know. Like Drake May could have the best 8 games.
You keep saying that.
Well, because
I know.
it normally goes
You
to
from
quarterbacks.
Boston, bro?
It normally goes to quarterbacks. Like Brock Bowers or Brian Thomas or Neighbors would have to go so far above and beyond what they've already done, which is fantastic, to be in that mix. The only thing I could see is if Bo Nix went on a heater. He has an even better base, to work with. But it'd have to be absolutely insane. But some years, like, there aren't really that many great options for this award, and like some of these other guys would be winning. For instance, I thought about it, and I was like, is Bo Nix better than Sam Bradford was when Sam Bradford won Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Interesting.
And it's not even close. Like, Bo Nix is way better. Sam Bradford was like the 25th best starting quarterback in the league and like 6.1 yards per attempt or whatever it was. And it was just like, there wasn't really any good choices this year and that year. And he was a starting quarterback on a halfway decent team. He was okay. Like, it's just a sign of how guys are coming into the league. Awesome. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I think at this point would probably be one-sided. I guess we'll go to Rams beat writer for The Athletic, Jourdan Rodrigue, for her pick.
Yes, shocking nobody. I am picking Jared Verse for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I don't think it's close. He leads all rookies in pressures with 45. His pressure rate is 20.4% per Next Gen Stats, which is double the league average and third highest among all defenders in the NFL right now. 4.5 sacks, and watching him play, especially starting in October onward, has been just you can see him continuing to ascend. I also have to tell you, the energy, the dynamic that he's brought to that defense, they weren't sure what they were going to do for that sort of vocal bully on the field, minus Aaron Donald, minus Jalen Ramsey. And Jared Verse is that guy.
Tell us more about him being a bully. What has he said?
Mic'd ups, like his mic'd up, I encourage people to go back and watch that because it was delightful, first of all. But he is at the point where in the spring, he was talking so much trash to Matthew Stafford, to the receivers, to his own teammates, to the linemen, that Sean McVay had to pull him aside in OTAs, no contact, and say, hey, man, these are your teammates. You're not going to find an enemy on the sideline. But here's the thing about Jared Verse. He cares so much about that. He cared so much that Sean McVay had to say that to him. And they had a conversation about that. And since then, he has channeled everything toward his opponent, and behind the scenes has really, really lifted people up.
Wow.
Fellow teammates.
You can see it on the field,
he
too.
made
Like,
sure to
the energy's crazy.
It was cool. There was
The
a
aura.
very small moment that happened a couple of weeks ago when Braden Fisk kind of had his breakout game. His teammate at Florida State, who's kind of playing really well, but kind of gone under the radar because Jared Verse is playing so well. And in the scrum on the road, Sean McVay was handing out game balls, and Jared Verse, who's a rookie, who you don't talk to your coach, this confidently, right? If you're a rookie, he stopped Sean, and he pulled Braden Fisk to the front of the scrum because Braden Fisk is very quiet and kind of it went into the background in that moment. And he pulled Braden Fisk to the front and he said, hey, he deserves a game ball too. Sean McVay was already planning on giving him a game ball, but it was really cool to see how he made sure everybody was in that moment together. So he is going to be a star, but he's not going to take other people's shine away from them.
Reminds me a little, just when I think energy, because you can see it on the field. He just plays with so much energy. I was trying to think who does that remind me of a little bit as a player? Like Max Crosby kind of came to mind. They're a little different in how they win, but just in that his energy, I think is so obvious that you don't even need to be around the team. You just seeing it on film reminds me a little bit of that. Maybe a young Cam Jourdan, not to dismiss an older Cam Jourdan, which has been amazing. But when he came into the league, he was such a bowling ball of energy, just like running through dudes that it really changed that Saints defense. So those are two guys that kind of came to mind.
He reminds me of both of those two players, and also I've sort of been describing it this way as well. But people who have watched him play up in person kind of get this vibe too. Jalen Ramsey, I know different position, but in terms of just
Attitude.
that the confidence and I know what you're going to do on this play, and I'm going to be better, and I'm just, if for lack of technique, I'm just going to run through you. Those types of things, and that's what they needed. So I think he's running away with it right now. There's a couple other players. Chop Robinson's having a really good season, kind of ascending now. Quinyon Mitchell, I mentioned earlier, is playing.
What does that look?
We talked about him last night.
Oh, yes, we did.
My good family friend was his principal in high school.
Really?
Oh, that's right.
He's like a 1 of 8 or something. Great guy. I've been a fan of him since high school.
He's come on lately. The Eagles defensive backs, we can talk about them in the preview, but Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. I think Quinyon Mitchell might actually have a chance here. Byron Murphy maybe could have a good second half of the year for the Seahawks. Evan Williams, I just wanted to shout out for the Packers, a good young safety. Kamari Lassiter, some good players there. I'm just going to I don't even know if this is an award, but I just wanted to get this out here, and here's a spot to do it. So I'm just going to say this is an award for the second half schedule, which teams are going to be helped and hurt the most in terms of the second half schedule. We do a lot of schedule talk when it comes out in May. We do more of it when we're predicting the season in August. It's pretty much useless in both of those spots. And yet no one really talks about it at this point in the season when it's really useful because we have a ton of information and it completely changes the way your season is going to be looked at the rest of the way. So very quickly.
Give it to me, Rachel.
Schedules, teams that are going to be helped. The Bucks, easiest according to Football Outsiders or DVOA at FTN moving forward. They have an at Giants, at Panthers, Raiders coming up, then at the Chargers. That's one hard game. And then 3 more cupcakes at Dallas, Carolina, and Saints. So that's 6 easy games on the Bucs schedule. They have a chance to come back. The Texans and the Colts both have pretty easy schedules moving forward if you kind of want to look at teams that might play well down the stretch. I think the Texans are a perfect blend where they have a bunch of cupcakes at Dallas, Tennessee, at Jacksonville. They have another at Tennessee, but then they also have some tests. So like I think they're gonna get to the playoffs because of their schedule, but then they also get an at Kansas City and a Baltimore in there to just kind of like see where they're at. Miami, the Commandos, those are easy. Team's gonna be hurt by their schedule. The Bears, they have the toughest schedule coming up, according to FTN Fantasy. It's so over. Don't even need to talk about them. The 49ers schedule is brutal. Seattle this week is like their easiest game in a while, and that's not that easy. At Green Bay, at Buffalo, then they get the Bears, the Rams, at Miami, Detroit, and Arizona. Just like a gauntlet there. So it's going to be tricky, and Arizona has one of the easier schedules, certainly in that division moving forward. Pittsburgh has a very tough schedule. Moving forward, Seattle is another one that stands out as tough schedules. I don't want to go through like every single one, but that's a lot.
But you kind of do.
I kind of do. But we don't have all the time in the world. Do you have any
Yes.
hanging awards out there?
I have a few of them. I have the Quarterback I Can't Quit award going to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I have the Don't Stop Believing award going to the Arizona Cardinals, who looked a little wobbly in the second part of this
I'm on
season,
board.
but are ascending top 10 offense right now in a lot of advanced statistical categories. And then also their defense is kind of coming along a little bit.
Are we ready to admit that Steve Weiss was right and that maybe Baker Mayfield should have been on QB Island over Matthew Stafford?
Yes.
Wow. That's a big moment.
But that's for another show, We got time.
Same here.
We got
Now I
time.
would say that based on last week. Although I wanted Kirk Cousins over Matthew Stafford, and I still think that was right.
I picked Baker.
You have a lot of hate about Matthew Stafford. We were talking about this.
It's not a lot of hate. It's okay to admit
Maybe I'm
that
just
it's
too big a
not as
stan.
good. She's got more awards.
Okay.
And my last award, thank you for the platform. Our expectations were already low, but you sank them even lower award
Can I
goes
guess?
to
The Jets.
That's
Just
good.
kidding.
That would be a good candidate.
Panthers.
This is officiating.
Oh.
All season.
Oh.
All season. Just open category.
I just got an update in my Thank you, Roger. They're asking the same guy who took my family out of the studio when I brought them in. They
Oh my
they
gosh.
want to
Escort you.
see you. Yeah, they're gonna
Right.
escort you.
We know to.
My kids have actually been in a room. I haven't been able to see them for weeks since that. But yes, you're gone too.
Oh, I have to be bleeped out.
Yeah, you're just gone. No, it is absolutely okay. Yeah, it's been a bad officiating year. I don't know. It's one of those things that I agree it has been, and it has been in big spots. But I also know everyone's been saying that every year for as long as I've ever watched the NFL. So I don't
We
know
love
what
to
to
hate
mean.
it. It's fine.
You know what I mean?
We love to hate it.
It's human nature. It's like every generation thinks the next generation is lazy or has problems with them. But that's the most consistent thing throughout human history. Like people now, like they're not developing quarterbacks like they used to. Since when? When was the magical time when there were no quarterback busts? What? So that's all that's my only issue with the officiating complaints.
Okay, so
I'm
list
glad
some
you took a
teams
stand.
that would fit in that category.
What teams?
I'm saying, what is your team that would fit that category?
For
Expectations
Our
were
expectations
low.
Started
are already
low.
low, but you sank them. Even lower award goes
Ooh.
to
Yeah, Jets were perfect.
Jets are good. Yeah.
Panthers.
Although the Jets' expectations were high.
But
I
depends
think.
on
Not
who
for
you
me,
ask.
but yes.
Yeah.
But you're right. I thought
the
they would
city
be
of
like
New
8
York.
and 9. I did
Yeah.
not have them in the playoffs. I thought they'd be average, and they are way worse than that. Titans are even worse than I would have thought.
Yeah.
That's a good pick.
Okay.
The Giants, maybe, although everyone kind of thought the Giants would be this bad. No, the Cowboys.
The
maybe.
expectations were already low.
Cowboys.
My expectations, and I wish you would have stood on the tiny table and just like doubled down and tripled down on the tiny table take there, Greg, because the Cowboys imploded
Yes.
like you thought they would.
Yes.
And our
I got
collective
afraid.
expectations were already low, and they sank them actually legitimately even lower than we could have expected. The sun doesn't set.
When are we
going
gonna
to
stop talking about the Cowboys?
But it sets on the
right now,
Cowboys.
no more Cowboys talk. All right, the final award I'm giving out here, it's just an unexpected delight award. A lot of nominees. I'm going to introduce the nominees,
Okay.
and then finally
Is it me?
it's the you were expected, high draft pick. Zach Bond, potential All-Pro. What an unexpected delight.
Okay.
Jaden, and just like that we've talked enough about Jaden. Liam Cohen being just a badass play caller in the Bucs offense being really fun. That was unexpected. Kirk O'Chains being better coming off an Achilles in less time than Aaron Rodgers being coming off the Achilles. And to me being maybe the most fascinating Kirk we've ever had, that he's playing inside a box, like the same box he didn't leave during COVID when he was going to do the interviews. Like he's playing inside of it and it's working. Doug Peterson's halftime speeches or halftime interviews with Steve Weiss back-to-back weeks. Maybe only I remember this, but he was so despondent. He looked like he wanted to fire the rest of his team. The first halftime speech in London, and then the next week, he was so happy after a great second quarter. I really enjoyed that. Jim Harbaugh and his love of Justin Herbert. Let's actually watch and listen to just a little clip of Jim Harbaugh being so mad that he let his quarterback down.
Damn it! Damn it!
That was Harbaugh. Oh, there he is making
Balls
the
are coming
big
out
time
good.
catch.
I suck today. No, you're good. We're gonna get it. My bad. Balls are coming out. They're coming out good.
Oh, it's like Michael Scott in the basketball episode.
There's 20 more seconds in that clip, and I'm glad you cut it where it was, Hytham there. But there's 20 more seconds of him just going, "Oh, Herbert, he's throwing it well today. Oh, you're throwing it good. You're throwing it good." But no, the winner of the Unexpected Delight Award is the burgeoning friendship of me and Bridget Condon. Play the music.
Stop.
I just wouldn't have thought.
What do I
of all
get? A
the
favor?
employees. We don't have any more awards music.
Do I get a favor? Is that what you're
You
going
get
to
a favor
me?
down the road.
What's it going to be?
Whatever you want, except for covering your Monday Night Football shift on November 25th.
That's horrible. Look.
Maybe I could be the godparent to your child, like something like that. No?
YouTube, watch her face.
Okay.
All right, we're going to take one more break.
Jesus. You're worse than my parasite.
Back on NFL Daily, feeling a small
How are we
measure
feeling?
of guilt. Not about you, Bridget. that was a mistake, and I apologize. And what can you do? You own up to it. I feel bad that I forgot we never did Assistant Coach of the Year, which was it's going to be your showpiece here, Jourdan. And we're still not going to do Assistant Coach of the Year. We're going to do news. The Bears fired Shane Waldron, and passing game coordinator Thomas Brown is expected to take over. We've hit on the Bears quite a bit. We talked about this possibility, Bridget, on Monday night. Jourdan, you know Thomas Brown, I'm guessing, because he was with the Rams. What do you think he'll do?
Yeah, I covered him when he was in LA, and it's unfortunate. He was in this situation with Carolina last year as well. Obviously, the team makeup and sort of the dysfunction that was going on at that time is different than what's happening in Chicago right now. You kind of got the feeling that he's calling plays with one hand tied behind his back in Carolina. And this year, I mean, I don't know how it's going to go. I know he has the experience. He's extremely well regarded, whether it's in that building or around the league. And, my sense is that he's going to be trying to put together a resume because nobody knows what's going on after this season. And the Bears just need some good energy, some good vibes. What I think is the biggest potential weight on the entire building right now is this is quite clearly a group of players and scheme and all of that needs to continue to develop, move forward, develop rapport with each other, be cohesive. When the head coach is in job-saving mode, that's not necessarily going to happen because the priority becomes, whether subconscious or conscious, saving the job. And so things fall through the cracks. You don't get a lot of that time that you need to, or maybe your energy is not fully spent on actually writing the small details and writing the small things that are going wrong on the field.
Yeah, there were reports that some players, essentially requested to have Shane Waldron fired, and a few of them also said, "Hey, can we get Tyson Bagent back at quarterback?"
All right, let's not go that far. But
that's a little rough. I am as worried about the receivers and their cohesion with Caleb Williams, let's say, and their general attention to detail as anything with this offense. So
they're not
that's something that Thomas Brown needs to work on. Let's talk Dak Prescott undergoing season-ending hamstring surgery. You wanted to stop talking about the Cowboys. I think that this injury, it's official now. Now we know he's going.
But we're not going to stop talking about it.
Well, they're in some primetime spots.
People aren't going to start. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand why the Cowboys don't get the same,
ambivalence.
Yeah, what's the word I'm looking for? Than any other
bad.
team. But whatever, I get it. America's team.
Because they pull in numbers, and they will on Thanksgiving afternoon because there's no other options other than to watch
Cooper Rush.
It's probably by then, 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna forecast Trey Lance versus Drew Lock. If you give me Tommy cutlets on
Give it to me on Thanksgiving and have his mom fire up a dish pregame.
You're right. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but I think as America, if you want to play Drew Lock the rest of the season,
give me some entertainment.
I think it would make total sense. The Giants, you've added nothing to our lives in all those primetime games that you stuck us with the last 5 years. Give us cutlets on Thanksgiving only. And they even announce it ahead of time. Thanksgiving only, one-time appearance, Tommy DeVito, Trey Lance.
One-night show, Tommy Cutlet.
Let's get sloppy. Let's talk about two teams that are relevant.
One-act play, huh?
Yes, in that division. Yes. Those were good times. I didn't think we were going to win. I mean, but we won.
Are you thinking about that girl now?
No, we've kept in touch, you know.
Oh, wow.
A little bit.
Oh, geez.
Great.
Is she a listener of the NFL Daily?
Definitely not.
What's her name?
I'm not saying her name now.
Hey, if you're listening, he's still thinking. Just kidding. That's disrespectful to your wife. Okay, let's talk about Thursday night.
I don't think it's
I feel like you're a little
fun.
thrown off right now.
I am.
I'll take
in a
take
great
over.
way.
I'll take over.
Take the
All
lead,
right,
Bridget.
You're our host.
I got something good for you.
Yeah.
180. You know I like numbers. 180th regular season game in series history between the Commanders and Eagles, and get this, first time ever on a Thursday night.
Wow.
Interesting, huh?
That is surprising. Maybe it's because Washington hasn't been relevant enough.
180 games?
Although TNF also wasn't always like a showpiece for the best team. So it's a little random. A stat between these two teams that really shocked me was This is the first time they've played each other where both teams are at least one game over 500 since 2000.
First
What?
time they're playing 4 games over 500 since 96.
Well, mine was better because it's like
Mine's
one
better.
game was more, surprising, and there's
Okay,
only
fine.
a 4-year difference there. So
Eagles have won the past 5 of 6. The only one
Okay.
the Commanders won was in primetime.
Go.
I am
Come
really.
on, what do you got?
Go.
What do you got, numbers boy?
I'm not a numbers boy,
Okay.
but I.
All right,
actually-
Commanders have the highest scoring offense since 91. Last time they were in an NFC championship game and Super Bowl. They also have the longest active championship game drought.
Okay, so I do have some numbers that
Okay.
top all your numbers. Since the Eagles bye, their defense is number 1 in the NFL in success rate. And this is since week 6, which is a 5-week sample. It's pretty big. Number 1 in the NFL in EPA per play, and number 1 in the NFL in explosive play rate allowed by far. And I use that last stat to point out that like Vic Fangio's scheme is Vic Fangioing. Like that's not a verb, but I want it to be a verb. Everything that he wants to do, putting a cover over the top of a defense, I think matching their zones where they're passing off receivers it's not like a sexy thing to talk about, but the communication between the cornerbacks and the safeties where there's no breakdowns and there's just not a lot of really open receivers. Yes, they've played a lot of bad teams in that stretch, and that's a huge part of those numbers, but that Bengals game was kind of the Vic Fangio blueprint of what to do against great offenses. The Bengals actually moved the ball really effectively the first couple drives, but he made them work for it, like these 7-8 play drives. And he's getting supported by an explosive offense. That's what the Eagles have. And then suddenly in the second half, like the Bengals needed those points. You got a couple turnovers. You made a couple plays. You were on your P's and Q's. And that's the best any defense has played against the Bengals in a while. And so everything is coming together. And it all happened when they put that white boy in at slot corner and safety, Cooper DeJean. We thought he was going to be the greatest white cornerback in the last 30 years. And he might be, but he's actually doing the thing that everyone just like reflexively did in draft prep. They're like, oh, you're saying he has to play inside? Like, that's actually like kind of racist because he is explosive enough that he should be an outside corner as a pro. Like, this is not your normal like white guy, but he is playing in the slot and he's freaking amazing. Like, he has a chance to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. So I think him getting back there with Mitchell and obviously Darius Slay's playing well, like that's really what's changed in this defense.
He plays the star position.
That was a lot.
Yeah,
That was a lot.
I feel like my hair is like blown backward
I
now.
don't know what to say.
He plays the star role. It's a hybrid safety corner role in this coaching defensive family, right? And what that does, which some people predicted he would be doing at the beginning of the year. Some people. He's making a difference there because that role operates to be able to pass off different coverages, but it doesn't always have to be dictated by what the rest of the coverage rules are around in that sort of shell or that match down, that match zone, like closing umbrella that they play. And really it creates like, so he could play traditional slot corner, right? Or he can be a creative player like with mathematical advantages based on where he's moving and sort of the floating between that corner and safety position and disguising other coverages. When, teams did this with certain other players, in this coaching family, the goal is to either make him an unavoidable player. So all the coverages are dictating toward you having to go, and his matchup dictates toward you having to go his direction where he is in place to make a play on the ball, or forcing almost a counter leverage from the offense because they see where he is and they think they can predict kind of what his job is on that play. And then so in that sense, Vic Fangio is then dictating to the offense other areas of the field that they must put the ball toward. So I think it's a real credit to what we know about this defense, which is that it grows over time, it develops over time. But I also think it's a real credit, and I've said their names a couple of times, but those assistant coaches that Vic Fangio specifically brought with him to this staff, Christian Parker, who had worked with him before, and Joe Casper, they coach corners and they coach safeties, and those dudes, including the young rookies, and Quinyon Mitchell certainly is having an outstanding season, are ready to go. And they're ready to play, and they're smart, and they know playing a match zone is really hard. You have to know all the opponent tendencies and how different concepts layer out and how space is dispersed on the field. The way they're playing this right now, they really understand how to negotiate that space and constrict down around what offenses are trying to do.
And know how to coach these guys up, because Quinyon Mitchell wasn't in that pure, he's going to be the outside corner playing every snap role right away. He was actually on the inside and was kind of working his way up. And Jourdan wasn't even starting the first month of the season. And you can say, well, maybe he should have been in there earlier. No, however, right. But even when he was back, he was pretty much ready to go for a number of weeks, and they weren't playing him yet, and they were getting antsy. But their development plan for him was perfect. And it's not a surprise. People there were really excited. You said you thought like they're coming off their toughest game of the year, Commanders.
Not toughest, worst offensive performance.
I hear that, and you're right.
But
and yet,
what?
it was
what, Greg? Period. End of sentence. Full stop.
I would just say it was against a really good defense, and they still got 27 points and had a couple of really nice drives. So that's what happens when you play good defense, and this is another good one. So I'm really curious to see what they look like in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the Jayden Daniels in that offense is turning the ball over less at like such a historic rate. They've only had one. I don't think they've had a turnover on offense in 5 games. Yes, they turned it over on a muff punt on Sunday, but that was special teams. This is must-watch television on Thursday night. NFC East, old school rival battle. Like, this is what you want. I wish I was in Philly for this game, because the Commanders' DC area is different this time around because they're so excited. Like, people, when those teams are doing well, you can't get people to stop talking, and it is fun. And this potentially could have so much weight for playoff implications, and I can't wait for Thursday night, baby.
If you want to go cover that game, like I could cover your news shift in between. Something like that. No.
This is going to be great quarterback play on both sides. I mean, we mentioned at the top of the show,
hey, Greg,
Jalen Hurts.
Everybody listening, if you'd rather me host the show and Greg just, I don't know, take a hike, let me know.
Whoa.
I'm available.
It's like a coup attempt live. I love it. But don't listen to her, please.
I feel like the back of my skull is getting burned off and the front of my skull is getting burned off.
Wait, what were you going to say about quarterback play? Sorry, Jalen Hurts.
I just think it's...
It's good.
It's good. Both of them are good.
I
Jalen Hurts
think, well,
is good.
he's playing really, really efficient football. He's playing, especially, he's making smarter throws than earlier this season. Earlier in the year, through the first chunk of the season, he attempted 12 passes with less than a 25% completion probability. Per Next Gen, only completed one of those passes. If you watch the tape of his last couple games, not only is he, since the I think it was week 7 versus the Giants, he has completed 70% or more of his passes, but he's making really, really smart decisions, and he's creating, which he is so gifted at when given the opportunity. Both touchdowns against Dallas came when he was working out a structure, throwing on the move. That throw to Johnny Wilson, former Arizona State Sun Devil who transferred, like they all have. He worked out a structure to
not a bitter former Sun Devil.
In other words, if we're talking about Jayden Daniels here,
okay,
and he really escaped the pressure really, really nicely, and then he put the ball in just the perfect spot for Johnny Wilson.
I've struggled with how to view Jalen Hurts' season, but I've kind of come to the point that they are big play merchants. He makes enough fantastic plays that it makes up for them being a little like up and down, drive to drive. That Cowboys game was a perfect example. Like, they put up a ton of points, they had big plays, but you watch the first half of that game, he held the ball and had 5 sacks, and he's held the ball a lot, but he's ultimately not made many mistakes. They are a boom or bust offense that can really run the ball. We're going to see if their renaissance on defense is real against this Commanders offense, and their pass rushers haven't gotten enough credit. Like the Jalen Carter second-year leap everyone was hoping for, it's happening even if the stats aren't all there. Nolan Smith has had a second-year leap too, and I just think they're more talented. I think the Jayden Daniels offensive line held up pretty well against Pittsburgh last week. It'll be a big test. I'm leaning Eagles in this game. You were skeptically looking at me.
The show within the show, actually.
I don't know
Every
what's
time
happening.
I look to my left, my show within the show is every time I look to my left and I see
It's just my face.
Bridget's
Okay,
face.
Don't
that's true.
insult me.
Specifically when Greg talks. It's like,
I'm taking it all in.
It's art.
I'm a great listener.
it's art.
Maybe that's not good for the podcast. I'm not talking enough. But look, I'm a great listener. I'm not going to pick because that's not what I do as a reporter.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay, wow.
But-
Real deal.
Jordan, who are you going with?
I'm going to pick the Commanders.
Okay, good. I like
But
that
it is
split.
it is interesting. I could see this happening either way for either team.
I hope it's a close last second.
And I love
finish.
that they're at like the apex of their powers right now, respectively. I know that was a tough loss against the Steelers. I think the Steelers really took away what Jourdan likes to do on the perimeter very, very well, unlike most teams can. Too. Yeah. And I think this is going to be it. Jourdan Mailata will likely be back from injury. A couple of sneaky injuries to watch on either side. Dallas Goedert is not practicing. Darius Slay is not practicing. Devontae Smith is not practicing. Technically, practices are like a mock-up right now because
they all finished last week's game.
Devontae Smith did not.
Oh.
So that's a hamstring too. So that's the one that I maybe look at the most. And then on the other side, Marshon Lattimore still not practicing, but I could actually see him pushing to come back this Thursday. There's a picture of him and Dan Quinn like game planning, walking across the field together, floating around Twitter, which I really appreciated seeing.
I'm so glad you brought him up before we go, because this game, in games like this, but I think this game and then the next Eagles game, and I would maybe pick the Commanders if it was in Washington. I think that's how close it is, but I'm going to take the home team. This is why they got Marshon Lattimore. That when you're matching up against Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown specifically, like they just didn't have someone that could do that. St. Juste has played pretty well. Sandra still is a rookie, undersized, who we thought would have to play inside, who's played pretty well on the outside, but those are mismatches. And if you get the real deal Lattimore against A.J. Brown, that changes how the entire rest of the coverage will go. Your boy Frankie Louvu's been active. Dante Fowler's played pretty well lately. Johnny Newton, like their defense has gotten better, but I think that it's players, not plays. And I think the Eagles just got a lot of players. What a performance here.
You want to watch the game
by the three of us? I would love to.
Sorry, I have plans.
Oh. For Bridget Condon and Jourdan Rodrigue. No. This was fun.
You know, he called me Jourdan last night on the episode when we were saying goodbye.
Late.
He was
late.
For
Really?
Jourdan Rodrigue. I said, that is a huge compliment, but not me.
Nice of you. Thank you.
It's now it was like a bit for a while, but now I think it's actually just becoming uncomfortable for everyone.
You want to go upstairs? HR.
Hit the music. We've been waiting for it.
This middle seat is such a danger zone.
I love it. Get comfortable in being uncomfortable. You know, that's what I like. We'll try to be more comfortable on the preview show. Patrick Claybon and Steve Weiss. Look, when Bridget Condon is like giving me a 6th round knockout, you know football is back.